So, Gagean is a company that owns a game called Enlisted, okay? And in the forum lately, Major McDonald and some of the devs, they've been, let's just say, they've been doing stupid stuff. They've been flagging most posts about Japanese tech tree, is one example, right? They have let the Japanese tech tree just basically go unfinished. Japanese don't have enough units really to compete with Russia or America for that matter. America air superiority in Japan. You get a good team together, even at the best team with Japan, Japan's probably going to lose. And so they flagged those posts. They don't like talking about it. But now they're shutting down any posts talking about how bad the management is, okay? And the forum is owned by them. Great. But here's the problem that Major McDonald and his low IQ and the rest of his staff don't understand is that when players just say, hey, I think we're going to need new management, we don't like the game direction, they shut those posts down. They don't understand that it affects them too because Gagean is not a company that supports its workforce. So you're supporting the devs or the managers, whoever they report to, that would just turn on them in an instant. It's a very toxic workplace. And this is not coming from one employee, it's coming from all the employees, the ex-employees, right? And normally, when somebody gets fired, they have a gripe, but sometimes those gripes are legitimate. And those legitimacy complaints that they have seem to be really hitting the player base hard. Some of the complaints talking about their access to all our data. Because Gagean doesn't... Look, when you own and operate a company, right, you're supposed to give them the tools, your employees the tools they need to do the job that you would task for them. Gagean, however, and Enlisted especially, and a few other games that they own, they don't give them the tools for the employees to accomplish the mission. They make them pay for those tools, right? Certain computer programs they got to pay for out of their own pocket. So they're not paying employees enough as it is, but when you've started Gagean, you got to have all these programs. And those programs have accounts assigned to you, the user. And those accounts assigned to you, the user, have access to the player user. So when somebody gets fired because Gagean doesn't own those accounts are still active for the people that actually paid for it, right? And that's a problem. The problem is pure laziness. So I think one of the things there's two things the players can do, I think, at this point. One, they could do what they did over in War Thunder. They can legitimize a player union. Now, a lot of people laugh at that, but it kind of worked in War Thunder. War Thunder didn't play around as much. It's a larger base. It's a larger game, for that matter, compared to Enlisted. It's a larger era of, tanks, airplanes. Now they got infantry. So the player base is a lot larger. Compatible or comparable to Road of Tanks, for that matter, Road of Planes, and Road of Warships, okay? So when Major McDonald and them, they flag all these posts because they flagged mine. Because I asked AI, I said, how do the players feel about the list? And AI just went a flat out said the players are generally unsatisfied. They want a different game direction. And that's the problem. The players want the game to go in one direction, but the devs just won't listen. And the low-level dimwits, the low level is probably not the ones in charge, it's the management. And the management is what the players are calling to be replaced because they're not doing a good job. But it always falls on the owners. So after doing research, I found out there's two Russian owners. One's supposed to take the game direction. The other one pretty much just sit there and collect the paycheck, right? But they're always incognito. Nobody knows where they're at. They're always secretive. They're always silent. And that's not how you run a company. Now, some argue the way they're making millions and millions and millions. Well, so does Big Pharma. Look how unpopular they are. Making money, it's only part of the corporation. It's your name that means something, right? Right now, what Gagean means is incompetence, laziness, arrogance, and ignoring the people that make their paycheck, that pay them. And that's a big mistake. Extremely big mistake. Okay? So when you get somebody incredibly stupid as Major McDonald that comes into forums, wants to flag post that talk about these problems, and you got a couple other uh, moderators that are very low IQ, they don't understand how stupid it is, because eventually they're taking money out of their own mouth, because Major McDonald is nothing more than a scapegoat for the company. I don't know if has a situational awareness of a blind sloth in the middle of a jungle surrounded by alligators, but he just doesn't understand this stuff. And to show you how stupid he is, right? 2 years ago, you could find his video on Major McDonald's YouTube channel, and he was making fun of players for saying that there's cheaters in this game. And he flat out told them, without even looking at their accounts or asking for them to screenshot their accounts, that you're just a bad player. It's just a skill issue, he said. You don't know what you're doing, he said. Well, here's the problem. So, after he got hired over in Enlisted, Enlisted started doing the thing called ousting, right? Instead of enlisted, it was out enlisted. Well, it's kind of clever. Nothing wrong with that. It's a good gimmick. And then it's out enlisted. They were kicking players out of the game for cheating. He's never made an apology for it. Never said he was sorry. And sometimes in a forum, you're going to see that same idiotic phrase being reused. Oh, if you think there's cheaters, it's just a skill issue. Turns out it's not true. There is a large amount of enlisted players that do use Chronos. And unfortunately, when you cheat sometimes, well, it can make you a bad player because you don't develop the skills you normally would. So a normal player like me, with the almost 3 kill ratio on most maps, America's quite high, Germany's higher. You know, we know where the locations are. We know where the spawn locations are. We know where soldiers like to hide. We know the corners to put our back to, where to put our shoulder. We know when to take a tank. Maps like the steel mill, you know, there's certain times you take a tank, certain times you could take an aircraft, and certain times you got to go to the ground. You develop those skills over time. Well, cheaters, not so much. Okay, so when they do shoot at you, they never seem to miss. But the problem is, you can shoot back at them, and you know where they're going to keep coming from. You're going to know what the weaknesses are, because they're not covering themselves the way that they normally would. So just because you shoot straight for when you have a Chronos or cheat, it doesn't mean other players can't shoot you back, because they do have that skill. Okay, now sometimes people like me, we might get 200 kills a game, and there is times other players are just got lucky, and there's situations where players are skilled enough where it seems like they might be cheating, especially if you're not a skilled player. Even if you are a skilled player, there's times where I've even cussed. Doesn't mean somebody else is cheating. It doesn't mean somebody's not cheating either. That's the problem. So like I pointed out to a forum, when somebody was calling somebody else saying he has a skill issue, I said, what's his KDR? How do you know it's a skill issue? Huh? How do you know? See, they don't have the evidence to support that it's a skill issue. And if it was, why is their opinion so different, not allowed? Because they think somebody's cheating. Well, it turns out sometimes that they're right. Now they have to make oust, and most of them are PC players. But, you know, there's ways you cheat on the PlayStation I don't want to get talked about when it connects to the PC. And anyway, there's a Chronos user. So, to get back to the story, Major McDonald never apologized for insulting the entire fan base. So, his personality would be to take the side of the devs, of course, idiotic as it is, not realizing that if players get to the point where they're no longer going to tolerate the moderators, they're no longer going to talk about the forum, and they start digging in Major McDonald's and start making fun of him, well, the managers might actually get rid of him, because they're starting to make the managers look bad, even though they look bad enough. It's called a scapegoating, right? They're going to blame you for the problems. They're going to say, hey, you weren't telling us all this, you weren't doing all this. They're going to look for any reason to fire him. Major McDonald, matter of fact, might be looking at his last times here at Enlisted, because the growing frustration in Enlisted is getting more and more. Thank God for YouTubers out there that do post these problems, that talk to the ex-employees, that actually inform the player base that, hey, that when you use your credit card in Enlisted, you might possibility that it's not being secured like it is. And these two Russian idiots that run the company are so far gone in the wood line, hiding someplace incognito, that they don't take you seriously enough. They don't care. So it comes back again, falling on managers. So there might be a miscommunication going on. You might give them that. But that's your problem with your company. It's your responsibility to make for sure that communication flows smoothly. And Enlisted, it doesn't do that. That's a problem. Okay. So some of the problems Enlisted, besides them not protecting your account, protecting your credit card information, your personal information from being stolen. So let's say you don't even have or spent any money in Enlisted. You don't have nothing attached to your monetary, payments. That's fine, but you still have your name that does. You still have your name that gets attached to an address that does. They still have your email that does, right? And that's what they call phishing. That's all somebody really needs anymore, unfortunately. So, all that aside, the other problems, like I talk about, the Japanese tech tree being unfinished. Japan doesn't have really, despite having one of the largest air forces in World War II, in the game, they just kind of left them out for nothing. They don't even have a Tier 5 bomber in Japan. That's how bad it is. I know America doesn't have a Tier 4 fighter, but America has a lot of aircraft for Tier 5 and Tier 3, man. I mean, a lot that just totally could take control of a map, especially if you're a good flyer like me. So then when they do come out with a new unit in Japan, what they like to do is they put them all in one unit. That way you can't take two when you go into battle, besides being able to do that with all the other nations. So the last one they came out with was a Japanese tank in Tier 2 that fell in the same unit as like a dozen others, okay? Japan didn't need another Tier 2 tank at all. Even if it's a good tank that came out, that's not what they needed at all. And the one Tier 5 tank they got is a Tiger. Japan Tiger. That's their one Tier 5 tank they got. They have a high roll tank. Doesn't like to turn. Smokes you out. You can't see anything. Okay? Even a premium with the high roll prototype doesn't like to turn. Smokes you out when you shoot. Okay? That's it for Tier 5. They have a Tier 4 bomber they got on last year before. A little bit over a year. Maybe a year now. But that's a Tier 4. There's still no Tier 5. So they left the Japanese tech tree completely unfinished. If you go look at the tech trees, you just see big gaping holes in all of them. You know, the weapons, the tanks, the vehicles. But if you go to Germany and America and Russia, it's completely just covered. Matter of fact, it's so covered that when you go in America, sometimes you click on a tank in a Japanese tech tree and you get to pick a tank behind that tank. So yeah, they're totally ignoring the Japanese tech tree. And there's the other problem with that. We're going on 4 months in Enlisted now this year alone. And everything that's come out this year has been Russia, 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 Russia. Now they got a new event where there's a little bit of Russia and Germany. But there's still nothing for Japan. And it looks like they don't have a lot for Japan as it comes out. But when they do, it's always the same thing. Tier 2 tank. Tier 2 tank, or a sticker. I know this is how the year started out in Gaijin. I'd love to sit in this meeting. First month battle pass, they give Rust. Has a camouflage for the high roll in Enlisted. Rust. That was their genius thing. What are you going to give out this year? We're going to give out Rust. Then they gave out a gray color camouflage for the German jet, right? And apparently it actually made it faster. If you look at statistics, you take it off, you take it on, there's little changes there, okay? One guys I play with noticed that. That's their genius this year. Everything else, Russia, 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 Russia. And people starting to mock it. Well, if you mock it too much in the forum managers take it down. So the forum is not a place for players to go to express their feelings about stuff. There's dissatisfaction, them asking questions. They don't like questions in the forum. As a matter of fact, if you ask questions, it's more likely to be answered by the player base than it is a forum manager. Come to find out, some of the forum managers don't even play the game. I just talked to one who uses a Muppet, has a stain. He's from England. And one of the players was asking, there's a problem in the game right now. And he basically said, well, he doesn't know because his internet's bad. He doesn't even play where he's at. How do you become a foreign manager and you don't even play? Okay. That is sad enough. It's also apparent that devs don't play their game because sometimes the only way problems get mass reported is by the players. And if the players are reporting it before the devs knew about it, it's because the devs don't have it. That's another problem in the company. You and the company should have somebody on the Xbox, the PlayStation, and the PC playing at all times. Because when a problem does develop, you can fix it before it actually gets reported by a bunch of players, right? You know about it before they do. How embarrassing is it at your company that the players are your primary source for information? That's embarrassing. That's real embarrassing, man. This is why they say at Enlisted, they need new leadership. So every day over here now, I'm thinking about, man, do I have an addiction to Enlisted? Do I need to get rid of this because this game is not, it's not getting fun like it used to. I try to play for fun, and a lot of times playing for fun, you got to play solo. It's better not to have a party, to be honest. It really isn't. So I don't even know if I'm going to keep Enlisted. I might just get rid of it. I just don't need it, right? So if a company doesn't appreciate me, doesn't appreciate the payments, doesn't appreciate how much effort I put into it, then the company can go to hell. That's the way I felt about a lot of companies in America. I don't support no more because I meant nothing to them. I don't mean nothing to you. I'll take my money elsewhere. And that's what players probably need to start doing. That's the number one thing that could probably hurt Enlisted. The problem is you always have those few players that are hard-headed, either going to take the dev side, don't fully understand something, or laugh, and you're going to do it anyway, right? You're always going to have those low IQ idiots that are going to go against the grain. But as a player base, we might start talking among our circles, that the player people we play with. Hey, you know what? I think for maybe the month of May, maybe the month of June time period, we don't make no payments. We stop all payments in the game, none, and we start getting after other players that make payments because, hey, listen, we're trying to make changes in Enlisted better, good enough for everybody, and the only way we're ever going to do that is to take the money out of their wallets. That's the only way. That'll get the attention of the people in charge. The people in charge will hopefully start getting rid of some of the management. Because right now, Enlisted gets a failing grade. You got between Major McDonald being on the spectrum and some of the moderators that don't even play that are dumb as all hell. And now you have them removing all kinds of posts. The forum's useless anymore. There's no point going to the forum. You're not going to get any information from the forum. You're not going to get any answers. The devs don't help with anything. The moderators don't help with nothing. So if you got a question, you're better off going to Reddit because Enlisted, they don't answer questions. So yeah, that's just where we're at right now. Enlisted is a game that has a hard time keeping new player base, but the old player base is ready to give them the middle finger. It's about time.